shouldn't love our politicians. We should be kicking the tires on our politicians. All of them. Trump too. If you're a fan at home, you're a voter, that's one thing. If you're a member of the media, that's not your job. You're not a cheerleader. You're not there to help him. I had a real problem with the fact that they all sacrificed their objectivity to get him, to bring him down. And despite their personal beliefs, could never check it. It's fine to actually privately root for somebody and want this candidate to win, or that's human. But to show it, to openly try to make it happen every night on the air is something very different.
When did the media turn to all the lies? When did that happen?
2015.
2015? What happened?
Trump. There is such a thing as Trump derangement syndrome. He literally drove them crazy. He drove them crazy. Continues to drive them crazy. And they're just so agenda-driven. I said I'm not ideological. More journalists should be able to say that. It's not great to be an ideological journalist. It's really not. You're much better off if you really don't like either side and you're not in love with one or the other. All these people when Joe Biden was stepping down, I love him, I love the man. Well, you shouldn't. Get out of the news business. Stop that.
Yeah.
We shouldn't love our politicians. We should be kicking the tires on our politicians. All of them. Trump too. If you're a fan at home, you're a voter, that's one thing. If you're a member of the media, that's not your job. You're not a cheerleader. You're not there to help him. So I had a real problem with the fact that they all sacrificed their objectivity to get him, to bring him down. And despite their personal beliefs, could never check it. It's fine to actually privately root for somebody and want this candidate to win, or that's human. But to show it, to openly try to make it happen every night on the air is something very different. And they started doing it in 2015. They declared openly that they would now no longer be objective, that they would say Trump is a racist, Trump is a sexist, Trump's an Islamophobe. That's opinion. That's your opinion. You're saying he's a racist because you're also saying that he said there are fine people on both sides at the Charlottesville rally, which is a lie. So your first fact is based on a second underlying faulty fact, which makes you wrong. So you're much better off, if you're going to offer an opinion, saying it's an opinion. In my opinion, he's a racist, he's a sexist, he's a whatever. That's not what they were doing. They were reporting night after night that he was these terrible things, that he had said these terrible things. And they continue to do it. What's happening right now with JD Vance is a good example of it. Of course he had to be crucified because he has too good a story with a working class. Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin are too important not to hurt him. Trump has to be kid-gloved for a little while because he just got his head almost blown off. It would look bad. But here's this nice, fresh meat who happened to say some things that were provocative on cable news about women. Get him. Because we need women, we're Democrats. That's how we get elected. So unleash the hounds. He said this stuff. What did he say? I went back, we did a deep dive. You know what was happening when JD was saying that shit? There was a rising conversation on the internet and elsewhere around Mother's Day by these leftists that we don't need children. More and more women are choosing not to have them. More and more women who have them regret it. Deep thought pieces from mothers on how they regret having their children and how you really might want to rethink your decision to have them at all if you're somebody who hasn't. And you had AOC coming out there and saying it might be environmentally unsound and irresponsible. 1/3 of women polled said they felt the same, according to Pew Research.
Is that real?
Yes, a rising tide of children are bad. They're irresponsible and they ruin your life. Around Mother's Day. So JD Vance goes out there and says, defensively, these people are nuts. They sound like sociopaths. We should not be ruled by childless cat ladies who don't think children are worthwhile. And when pressed about, he was making a point about they want 16-year-olds to vote. And he said, if we're going to give 16-year-olds the right to vote, then we should give their parents a heavier weight to their vote, and the single people will have less of a weight. He said it was a thought experiment. It wasn't like, I have a policy proposal. Single people without children shouldn't have their vote counted as much as the married people. That's what happened with JD Vance. And he said, I understand people who want kids and can't have them. That's tragic. And my heart goes out to them. And, a lot of people just can't do it. IVF, whatever, which I believe in. But I do think net it's better to have kids because I think it helps ground you and it gives you better perspective on life and your problems. And especially if you're going to run for office, it gives you something real that you can think about and you have real skin in the game in the future. None of that is controversial. But you didn't get any of that context, the lead up, what he was responding to, or his fuller explanations about what happened. You just got, he hates people who don't have kids. He wants to make women have children. That was an actual headline, that he wants to make them have. So the media lies, and in particular, they lie about Republicans, and certainly anyone who's a MAGA Republican.
I mean, is this the end of mainstream media? Are we seeing its demise right now?
Yes. We're living in the end times for corporate media, I guess we'll call it. They're not mainstream. Is it mainstream to go out there every day and say that guys should be allowed to punch women in the face at the Olympics and pretend they're women? That's not mainstream. 70% more, really, but 70% of the Americans polled say they don't want it. They don't want men and women's sports or boys and girls sports. That's not mainstream. You and I are the mainstream. They're not. Is it mainstream to say open the borders and give amnesty to them all? I hate that term because it's a misnomer. But yes, we're living through the end times for them, which is a glorious thing. We should be celebrating that. That's one of the few great things we have to think about right now in public life. That and the Supreme Court are the two things I wrap myself in like a blanket when I go to bed at night.
What do you think the final nail in the coffin will be?
If Trump wins again.
That'll be the end.
Yes, because they'll do the same thing they did the first time. Everything will be negative. He will be the devil incarnate. They will find their oppositional, media roots again, which they totally forgot during the Biden years. Hello? We have a whole White House press corps that didn't figure out he was being visited regularly by a Parkinson's doctor. Do you think they'd miss that with Trump? Well, in fairness to them, Trump didn't put out his logs. But my point is they had no interest in finding out anything bad about Joe Biden. So I do think they'll just drive more people away. But they're already dying. You saw what happened when CNN tried to launch its digital property. It closed within a month. Hundreds of millions of dollars closed within a month. Their ratings right now in primetime, they're pulling in 500,000. I mean, I know you dwarf that in your numbers, and I certainly do as well. When I was in primetime at Fox, I was getting 4 million a night and 1 million in the demo. Sometimes well over that. Yeah, CNN's never seen 1 million in the demo unless it's the Trump assassination or some massive breaking news. CBS just fired. They're saying she quit, but she obviously didn't. Its main evening news anchor, Norah O'Donnell, and they're replacing it now with a cast, trying to look more like local news. They've been in third place forever. They're never getting out of it. The Today Show their ratings are in the basement. They're pulling no numbers whatsoever. They used to be a behemoth. That was where everyone wanted to work. It was hashtag goals. Now they get maybe 1/4 of what they used to get. They make no news. They're totally irrelevant. What was the last news Savannah Guthrie made?
I have no idea.
Of course you don't. What was the last news big interview Robin Roberts had? Who knows?
I don't ever watch it.
Who has more influence, Wolf Blitzer or Ben Shapiro?
Ben Shapiro.
It's just a new world. So they're well on their way to the end of their Kevorkian experience. Trump was the doctor, but they're the ones who hooked themselves up to the machine and they're almost gone.
What do you think happens? I mean, does it just dissolve into nothing? TV's just done?
I don't know the answer to that. I know the almighty dollar rules. So when they stop making money off of these people, they will shrink, as they have been, mass layoffs already. And eventually they'll have to find either a new model or close. I would love to see it turn into a resurrection of local news, which is important. Reporting is important. We need journalists, honest journalists. Sometimes they do amazing things.
No matter where you're watching Shawn Ryan Show from, if you get anything out of this, please like, comment, subscribe, and most importantly, share this everywhere you possibly can. And if you're feeling extra generous, please leave us a review on Apple and Spotify podcasts.